Welcome to Influence Unpacked with Marion Balinoff, the series where we explore what drives success in influencer marketing for mobile apps and games. Influence Unpacked is powered by AppsFlyer, bringing you insights from top marketers who innovate, elevate, and succeed.
So today I'm joined by Liz, Mobile Partnership Executive at NordVPN and Saily. Thank you, Liz, for joining me today.
Thanks for inviting me, and I'm happy to participate in this project. Excited to speak about influence marketing insights and share maybe some knowledge.
All right. So first to get started, Liz, can you tell us more about your position at NordVPN and Saily and how do you market those apps?
Yeah, my current position includes working with influence marketing campaigns as well. And it also involves two apps, NordVPN and Saily app. And while NordVPN is pretty big brand and already well known, especially on social media, Saily is a relatively new app, which we created just last year. So this is basically eSIM or digital SIM card, which helps you to have your mobile data while you're on trip or just like moving abroad.
So how do you approach influence marketing for those apps?
Yeah, I'm mainly focusing on performance-based campaigns. And as for my responsibilities, they involve pretty full management cycle, I would say, from research and outreach to negotiations and to closing the deals with further analysis and optimization.
So you really do everything in-house?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Do you have any partners to help you? Do you have any tools that you're using, or how do you handle all of this?
Yeah, I would say that most of the time I work with creators directly. However, I also have really good partners, agencies, which help us to scale campaigns or maybe to expand campaigns in specific markets, local campaigns, and so on. And since this project is together with AppsFlyer, so it's no secret that we use AppsFlyer for measurement campaigns, and it helps us a lot, I would say, with understanding the results and optimization.
That's great that you're touching upon that, because I was going to ask you, what is the biggest challenge that you currently see for mobile influencer marketing?
Yeah, there are a lot, I think, still no secret. But from my experience and from what I see in the industry, it still remains setting realistic KPI and understanding the measurement. When we talk about influencer marketing, it's important to understand that the standards and the benchmarks can differ from what brands have across other marketing channels. So it's especially tricky for new brands which only starting the campaigns. However, it's still number one thing. So I would recommend not to start campaign at all without setting realistic KPIs. And if we talk about KPIs, it also has a lot of factors which can impact the KPI. Let's say if we talk about awareness campaign, so how would you measure the success? Will it be only views, or maybe you will measure organic? And if you have any other marketing activities at the same time, so you can understand clearly that this channel is actually impacting or contributing, or this channel. And the same with performance marketing, which is also pretty different for many brands. It depends on the app specifics, if it's a free app, if it's a paid app. However, there still should be some metrics which you need to focus on. Let's say, will it be install downloads? Will it be purchases? Or maybe it will be recurring purchases, or simply ROI, or maybe AOV. Yeah, you still need to understand which metrics you're looking into.
Okay, and for you specifically, whether it is NordVPN or Saily, like what are your North Pole sort of KPIs that you tend to follow for your campaigns?
Yeah. Well, mostly if we talk about mobile campaigns, so we're focusing on installs, purchases, and ROIs. However, depending on the campaigns, if say we see that the results are not clear enough for us, we can look into deeper metrics, the conversion rates from both like clicks to installs, from install to purchase, maybe AOV.
And you mentioned like that it's really important when you get started to set realistic KPIs. How did you go around this? Like, for example, Saily, which is a newer app, like, because you've probably had benchmark for NordVPN, but it's completely different because obviously like the brand is not as well known. So I was wondering if you had any advices for people that are just getting started.
So you'd better lower expectation for the first campaigns for sure. You need to predict as much as possible or if possible, or maybe take some insights from other marketing channels, but not focusing on benchmarks, but mostly on user journey. So if you know your target audience, if you know like maybe average conversion rate, if you know the time frame within the user normally purchases the app or buy the subscription. So it will help you a lot to set the KPIs. However, nothing happens without tests. So it's always about test. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, that's really something that I keep repeating to my clients, that it's really, really important to keep testing, keep gathering data, because obviously doing one campaign will not get you to the results that you want, right? I was wondering, obviously, because Saily, as we said, like it's a newer app. When did you start doing influencer marketing? Did you start from the beginning? Did you launch other marketing channels before? What was the sort of timeline there?
Yeah, we basically launched on marketing channels when we started. And for us, it's also a bit different story because this is not our first app. So we already pretty experienced with influence marketing. So we know the rules in this industry. So I wouldn't say that it was challenging. However, you need to take into account that our new app, if we talk about Saily, it's an app for a specific purpose. So people need this app to solve specific problems while they're on a trip or while they're moving abroad. So it's not something you use in your daily life. Yeah. So of course, it depends on the app. But in our case, we started most of our channels, marketing channels at the same time.
All right. That's very interesting that you were saying, like, obviously the app serves a purpose, which is to solve a specific problem. So how did this impacted your strategy, creatively speaking, with influencers?
Yeah, if we talk about Saily app, so the audience is very specific here. So we are mainly focusing on, I would say, specific verticals when it comes to content type. Let's say if this is product related to travel, so we focus on travel related channels. So yeah, that's basically it. We're trying to focus on the audience which is mostly interested in the product, the audience which already have some problems or maybe is already seeking for some solutions for their problems.
Right. Yeah, because I've seen some pieces of content. I really, really like the storytelling, right? And we can edit that in the recording, but I remember seeing one ad where it was really the storytelling of a girl traveling, landing in a country, and then missing her bus, and then she doesn't get to the destination until very late in time, in the night actually, and then she realizes she doesn't have data, right? And so it really, I think it's really, really nice to have this storytelling because it hooks you at the beginning, and then it's like, okay, she had this problem, she was in Africa, no data at night, what does she do, right? And then it's like the resolution is, well, I wish I had Saily because then I could have just topped up my phone signal to avoid this kind of situation, right? So is this something that the influencers come up with or that you have in the briefs?
We always try to follow creators' authentic style. We give all the freedom regarding creativity, messaging, approach, because they know better how to approach the audience, their own audience. So all the examples we have right now and what you saw already, those are basically personal experience of the creators. We prefer not to work with scripts or specific tags because the audience will easily spot, I would say, the difference between messaging, wording, and so on. And it won't look organic. So we want to have our ads as realistic as possible. So people can share their own experience, maybe relate to this experience, to mention their own issues or maybe problems which they solved. And this works pretty well, I would say, in our case. And we try to follow this strategy most of the time.
Okay, so you give the creators creative freedom somehow.
Yeah.
Do you still give them some guidelines and somehow content direction, as in give us an example of a problem that you faced and then integrate it with Saily, or is it really completely open and it's like, okay, Saily, those are the USPs, and then you do whatever you want with it?
Yeah, I would say that from my experience, I normally share some do's or don'ts, but I would say it's pretty basic, but nothing specific when it comes to the user case, let's say. Because if we talk about Saily, we mostly work with travel creators and they already very experienced in some situations when it comes to data, when it comes to travel tips and tricks, so they can share a lot. And when we started promoting Saily, we found out that we even don't know all of the situations, all of the problems which we can solve actually, and people face them while traveling. So yeah, we do share some guideline, but this is mostly like very basic things. If we have some promotion, specific promotion, it will be only related to promotion. But if not, it's basically like avoid this and yeah, just follow your style, share your experience. And if creators have any question, they can always reach out to ask about specific features, maybe of the app. But it also depends on the experience because not all of them use, let's say, all the features. Some of them focus on one specific feature, some of them on another. So yeah, it depends on the experience.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. And I was touching upon this with another guest. How often do you renew your briefs? And do you happen to do more personalized briefs for some creators?
I would say it depends on specific case. Most of the time, our partners come up with their own ideas. So yeah, I would say that we try, as we mentioned before, we try to follow their own style. Once in a while, someone can come up with some questions or maybe asking if we have any news for the app, maybe new features are released. Of course, we try to update once we have any new when it comes to the app. However, it doesn't mean that all these updates will be mentioned because it fully depends on the creator. Because if we talk about, let's say, Instagram campaign, it's always about your lifestyle, what is happening here and right now. So it's pretty difficult to come up with the promotion which will cover everything about the app, to mention all the features, all the highlights. So we try to focus on specific problem which is happening here right now. And if creators have any questions, if they need our help, of course, we try and maybe to share some our ideas, maybe to try to focus on specific feature if they don't know what to highlight right now.
Of course, all right. And so you've mentioned Instagram, right? I would love to hear more about that, the platforms that you work with at the moment, or that you've tested in the past and didn't work, and the format specifically on those platforms. Can you share a little bit more?
Yeah. If we talk about mobile campaigns, we try to focus on mobile platforms, like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts. But I would say that Instagram shows better results if we compare these platforms. Of course, it might be different for any other brands, but if we talk about Saily, let's say, that in this case, Instagram works really great. So we love to focus on this platform specifically. When it comes to formats, I would say that most of the time we work with stories, with the Instagram Reels, sometimes posts, but Reels are more popular, I would say.
All right. So from my experience working with mobile games, we also do Instagram. I personally focus on stories. The reason for that is because you have a link that is directly in the post, right, in the story itself, which really helps with
Yes.
measurement, right, and attribution. But we know that then for other formats, so Reels or TikTok, even YouTube Shorts, like the link is not going to be directly with the post, right? So that makes it a bit more complicated to then understand the performance of those posts. How do you go about this?
Yes, it also depends on the attribution that you have. Let's say the easiest format would be story. I agree that it has link. It's easy to track the user journey. So it's pretty simple here. With Reels, it's more complicated. I agree. However, if you have a campaign, let's say with the promo code, you can track promo code. So it also helps a lot. Also, you can put the link in bio, of course. I'd say that it works in some cases. In some cases, it's not working because right now Instagram lets you put a few links, if I'm not mistaken, in the bio. So you can easily get lost in those.
Exactly.
We know that users are pretty lazy to check the profile after just like checking the reel because it takes time. You need to find the link in bio, or maybe until this moment it's already gone. It can be that some reels become viral after some time and the link is already gone.
Yeah.
However, there are some tricks, I would say. We used to test some pretty cool approaches for Instagram when creators use some specific tools which allow them to send direct messages automatically to the users commented specific words in the comments. So basically it works this way that the follower comments something and immediately get the direct message on Instagram with links and codes. So it's also very
That's what I saw in one of the posts, which I found really interesting because so it was one of the posts for Saily and it was like comment Saily or eSIM if you want a 15% discount, right? And so obviously it's going to boost the reach of this, the reach and the engagement of that post tremendously because then you get tons of comments for people that would not have commented in general. But it's really interesting that now it's automated. Can you share the name of the tool that you're using for this?
Yep, there are a lot of tools like this. Yeah, I know just one, but probably there are a lot.
Yeah, so that's definitely a tool that people might want to consider to automate this. And then is this something that then influencers are happy to onboard? Is it something that you have to negotiate with them to be integrated in the campaign? How does it work?
I found out about this tool because a few creators reached out and shared this idea with me. Because to be honest, I didn't know about this before. And normally it was just like a part of the promotion because it was the idea of the creators. Because they decided that it would be best for their audience to approach this way instead of just sharing the code in the comments. And sometimes they experiment with such formats just to understand like which format works best. Even for them, it's important to understand. So normally we don't request such an approach because it also depends if the creator can use the tool. Maybe it requires some additional setup. Maybe it's a paid tool. So it also means a lot for creators. But most of the time it was the idea I received from the partners.
That's great. That's great because like then you can enhance your campaigns from like tools and ideas that creators have used maybe with other brands. And so that's really, really interesting. Have you tested individual codes for creators so then you can better attribute the performance, or do you have like common ones for all the creators?
Personal promo codes only, I would say. Yeah. Otherwise, we never know who actually contributed to results, more or less. So yeah, personalization is very important, and we always try to follow also the preferences of the creators. If they have any requests for a specific, let's say, name, or maybe they even want to have specific link, we're always open for this. Yeah.
Okay. And have you tested different sort of discounts? So I've seen 15%. Have you tested 20? Have you tested 10? Have you tested something else? And if so, does it make a difference in the performance? Because so to give you a bit of context from my experience on mobile games, like when we do gift links, I really like testing different types of gifts because you can see sometimes like some of them will impact monetization or retention. So I'm curious to see if this is also something that you've tested.
I would say that we tested different campaigns, but when it comes to discounts specifically, it depends on what your business can afford. Because it can be already like the best offer you're doing. Maybe you can experiment here. Maybe not. We never know it. It always depends on the business and like how business would like to earn from this promotion. But we tested different campaigns, not related to a specific discount, but just related to different, I would say, CTAs and different offer in general. Let's say 3 gigabytes instead of discount. So yeah, we do test campaigns, but it fully depends on the business approach, I would say.
Of course, yeah, that makes total sense. Are you able to share some sort of best practices for anyone that is started with discount codes?
I would say that it's always better to offer personal discount codes so you can track each of them separately. It's always better to have them same as the creator's name, what we notice from the results, because it may be tricky or difficult for the follower to remember exactly the promo code if it's not like the name of the creator. And so I would say those are the best tips I can recommend to do.
That's great for people to get started. Thank you very much for sharing. On top of that, I would also add, and I don't know if this is something that you're doing, but for mobile games, what we also do is limit the availability of those discount code in time, just to get us like to create a sense of urgency and push people to actually use it to begin with. But it might be actually different for you because maybe you're creating content that is going to be more evergreen in a sense, and so even if people end up on the content weeks, months after it's gone live, you still want to attribute them back to the campaign. So I'm curious to hear if this is something you do or not for your apps.
Yeah, I would say that for Saily specifically, it's a bit different because this is a product which like people don't actually use it in daily life. And this is not something you need here right now. Most of the time people plan trips ahead, months before they actually go on vacations or just like moving somewhere. So we try to be flexible in the time frames so we can catch as many potential users as possible. So we know that we have this specifics. So the time frame where the user decides to purchase can be very long. In this case, it can be, for some people, it can be immediate decision because they already on the trip and they want to buy it. However, most of the people still plan ahead. So weeks, maybe months.
Something that I wanted to touch upon with you is the sort of workload and how much content with influencers can you manage to go live every month, right? Because I think many people really see influencer marketing as a black box and they don't really understand, okay, how much resources do I need? How many people do I need in the team? So first of all, I'd like to understand, are you the only one handling influencer partnerships on the mobile side?
On the mobile side, yes, mostly I cover the campaigns by myself. However, we have different teams depending on the campaign type. Let's say we have a very big department who works with influence marketing campaigns dedicated to web promotions mainly. So we split into teams depending on the not only app, but also the campaign types.
Okay. All right. So you do the mobile side of things. Do you handle several countries or do you focus on certain regions?
Yeah, we have our focus markets for the apps. So most of the time we work in specific countries. So it's not one country, it's a bunch of them, but still we focus on specific ones. Yeah, so most of the time it's a lot of markets at the same time.
All right. And just to give us an idea of like the number of pieces of content that go live every month, like are you able to give us a range of everything that, because obviously you manage everything yourself and companies have different setups. Sometimes it's like one person, but they work with agencies. Sometimes it's multiple people handling several campaigns. You're alone. Like, how many pieces of content are you able to organize every month?
Yeah, I'm not sure that I can share the specific number because
of course
there's a lot of factors which impact the number of videos coming live. It's seasonality, if there's any holidays happening, there are any other events in the world happening. So we want to, catch the hype and go with as many videos as possible. And there are periods when we do not see the demand in specific products. So we don't see the need to go live with a lot of videos. So it depends a lot on a lot of things happening. I would say that we do not have a lot of videos coming live. Of course, it depends what we compare with, because most of the time we try to focus on quality, not quantity. So we really try to optimize the videos as much as possible to focus only on those channels which perform best for us and which actually bring us good results, which brings us users, billings, good ROIs, and so on.
Okay. Something we didn't touch upon before, but it's really on everybody's lips at the moment. It's UGC, right? UGC and influencer-generated content. Because you're doing a lot of short-form content, I'm curious, are you leveraging this content in ads? Is this part of your strategy?
I don't think that I would be the best person to cover this because we do work with UGC, but it's mostly related to other marketing channels we work with. So when it comes to influence marketing campaigns, we work with organic posts. So we actually don't work a lot with UGC, but we have other departments and they work with UGC content created not only by our partners who actually work for Saily or NordVPN campaigns, but who just work as a UGC creator, and they help a lot.
Okay, yeah, that's really good. It really confirms also my take on it, because I find that if you pay influencers a certain amount, right, to create content, it's because you want to reach their audience, right? So their audience is used to their style, the way they communicate, they know their history, their personality, right? And sometimes when you want to take that content outside of that audience, it might not make sense, right? Because maybe the humor is not going to resonate with people outside of their audience. And so sometimes I tend to advise my clients, if you want to do UGC ads or influencer generated ads, it might be more interesting and actually more cost efficient to work with really small, tiny creators that don't necessarily have a big following, because in the end, you're going to push that content outside of their audience anyway. So pay a lot cheaper for the content itself and then put like paid media behind it. But I don't think it's really interesting paying a lot of money for big creators or medium-sized creators to begin with, and then having to push that content outside of their own audience.
Yeah, it also depends the purpose of UGC, what you're planning to do with that. You're going to use it with paid ads, search ads, or maybe you will just use it on your own socials only. So, of course, it depends on the goal of such an approach. But I would say that when I work with creators, I don't request UGC content. I don't request normally the bites, because most of the time we don't need it for influence marketing campaigns. We might have used them for other channels, but in this case, the approach will be different. And most of the time, those will be different videos, not the videos we post for our campaign promotion.
All right. Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Before we wrap it up, I wanted to ask you, is there one sort of practice or approach that you believe marketers should always stick to for really successful campaigns?
Yes, I would say that it's always better to focus on engagement and smaller or maybe niche creators instead of big names and big views. Because I think it's not something new for seasoned marketers, and the approach with the big number of subscribers, followers, and views already showed that there's no correlation actually with the performance. So yeah, I would say it's always better to focus on smaller creators. And if your app is very specific and solves specific problems, so then you can focus on niche creators. I would say it will be cost effective for sure, because you won't have big budgets for such campaigns. You will have better engagement, better conversion rate for sure, and eventually you will have higher ROI.
No, exactly. Yeah. Those micro creators, like this is something that like types of creators that we tend to work with in mobile games. But whenever you get started, it's really important to start with niche and really smaller creators, because that's going to allow you to work with tons of them and then gather some data and understanding, okay, which type of vertical is going to perform for your app or your game. And then once you're more comfortable and you understand, okay, maybe travel, maybe lifestyle, maybe fashion does work, then you can maybe start working with bigger size creator. Then I think the bigger creators, so mid-size and macro creators, are still going to be important if you want to start scaling, because then obviously if you want to start spending 6-7 figure budget with only micro creators, and if you're only doing it in-house, right, you're gonna face the problem of the workload. And that's why it can be interesting at some point to look into bigger size creators, but it's really important for people to have the sort of confidence that it's going to perform somehow for the app or game before they start investing 5-figure budget in a single 5 or even 6-figure budget in a single creator.
Yeah, for sure. But it also depends on the campaign type you have, unless you have any awareness campaign as a goal. So then you will need, most likely you will need big names and celebrities, because they can actually spread news about your app pretty fast. However, if this is a performance-based campaign, the same we work with, then yeah, definitely better to test smaller creators, gather insight, and then optimize towards the metrics you're looking for specifically.
So we touched upon the gifts, discounts, and the gift codes. Is there any other tactic that you think can really improve the campaign performance?
You mean the campaign offer or something like this?
Whether it is, so to give you some example from the gaming side, gift links and gift codes are by far my favorite part to improve the conversion rate. We can also improve monetization. But then, for example, we can test giveaways and contests that can also engage the audience more. We can sometimes integrate the influencers directly in the game. So I don't know if you've seen other sort of tactics like that that can improve the campaign performance, or it might be just like, okay, I have the hook at the beginning of the post? Anything that you can share?
Yeah, I think I've seen a lot of different approaches from different apps and different industries. It fully depends on the product type. It fully depends on the campaign, I would say. If we talk about us, then yeah, we have our promo codes, which we share with the audience to offer discounts or maybe some free gigabytes if we talk about Saily. So we tried and test the different approaches. When it comes to the messaging specifically and the CTA, it also depends on the creator. I would say that maybe I will repeat myself, but we try to fully rely on creator style, because the same approach most likely won't work on different channels. So for some audience, it's important to have the hook in the beginning to catch the interest and then to tell the story behind it. And for some audience, it's important to see the story, what happened, long form of videos when creators share a lot of background. And then in the end comes up with the solution and with the hook. So it always depends on the creator's approach.
Okay, perfect. We're going to wrap it up now because you've shared already a lot of insights. So I'm going to ask you a few questions and if you can answer with your take on it. So first one is, what's one thing marketers should stop doing in influencer marketing?
Stop focusing on followers, subscribers, and views.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
And that's something that I really hear often. That's great. And I think we're gonna help people understand that it's really something that should stop completely.
It's number one rule.
Exactly. What's one strategy or tactic that they should start doing right now?
I would recommend to focus on engagement and conversions, meaning it's better to choose by engagement and then optimize by actual conversions, depending what you count as conversions.
And then one last question. What's a proven approach that marketers should keep in their playbook?
I recommend to choose micro or niche creators instead of big names or celebrities. Then test before any long-term commitment. And the last one would be trust the creator.
All right. Amazing. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Liz, for joining me today and sharing so many insights. Where can people find you or learn more about your work?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for inviting. It was a pleasure to meet you and talk with you about influence marketing. And yeah, if anyone wants to find me, I'm available on LinkedIn. You can easily find me by brands, by NordVPN or Saily apps. And if you have any idea of collaboration, if you have any feedback maybe, so feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to talk.
Amazing. Thank you very much. I'm just going to wrap it up now and we'll edit this bit where I'm coughing. That's it for today's episode of Influence Unpacked. I'm going to start again because I mumbled a little bit.
You're doing great.
I hate this part, honestly. Like the scripted part is just like the thing that I hate most. All right, let's start again. So that's it. Oh my
You're
God.
doing great.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to do great now. So that's it for today's episode of Influence Unpacked. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like. Go. I'm going to drink and I'm going to start again.
Such a hard job to be a creator or influencer because it's actually very difficult.
So hard. Yeah, and I've never thought I would be doing something like that. And you realize it's really a job, right? To make it sound somehow organic, and it's really, really hard. Anyway, I'm going to start again and I'm going to nail it this time.
Good.
Okay, that's it for today's episode of Influence Unpacked. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, share, and follow for quick, actionable tips on influencer marketing for mobile apps and games. And if you're looking to dive deeper, check out my guide on the AppsFlyer website. It covers everything from setting up your first campaign to best practices and tools to measure your success. You'll find the link in the post, and see you next time.